So Ved himself says, no, logic is not the ultimate goal. Logic can be helpful. He said what you should do is, with your logic, you should use it to reconcile contradictions in scripture through proper analysis and under guidance of the proper, like Jiva Goswami, Satsandarbhas, uses all kinds of pure logic. Mahaprabhu himself would use this. Mahaprabhu said, you should Siddhanta kore na koro alas, ihalage Krishna sudrida manas. You should discuss and analyze scripture and Siddhanta, philosophical conclusions. This will make your mind firmly established in Sri Krishna. So Mahaprabhu himself recommended this, but we should not use logic to say, basically from just using sense perception and logic in this world, then we will ultimately, if we don't take shelter of Guru in scripture, we'll tend to reject the absolute truth, saying this world is everything. Just act in this world. So that leads us to the fourth sutra. And we're going to talk about the verse we just learned as well. But I just want to lay a bit more of a framework before we get into that. Now, Vedvyas had four main disciples. So Vedvyas, he divided the Veda that was one into four divisions. The Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. And his four disciples, he gave proprietorship over each branch of the Vedas. So his first disciple, Paila, he gave proprietorship over the Rig Veda. Vaishampayan, he gave over the Yajur Veda. Jaimini, he gave over the Samaveda, and Sumanta, he gave the Atharva Veda. And then the fifth branch of the Veda, which is known as the Purana and Itihas, the histories, the Vedic histories of the great kings and the great sages, and also the Lord's pastimes and the Puranas, he gave that to Romaharshan Sutta. So what's very interesting to know is that Gurudev mentions this in his classes. I was typing the other day. Gurudev said, what is a real disciple? A real disciple is not just someone who gets the formality of initiation and says, I am this personality's disciple. He said, real disciple is who has understood the heart of their guru and is serving that as Gurudeva Tatma, making their heart one with the heart of their guru, meaning my only desire is how I can serve and please my gurus. And those personalities, they are the real disciples who carry on the lineage. So Vedvyas, he gave these four main disciples the different branches of the Vedas. But not all of them understood his real heart. And that's why in the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra is written in the end, right? After he had divided the Vedas. So in the Vedanta Sutra, he is going through the arguments of his disciples. His own disciples countered Vyasadeva and challenged him. So we're going to specifically talk about Jaimini now. Jaimini was the author of what's called the Purva Mimamsa. So the Purva Mimamsa discusses karma and the karma kanda. And Jaimini said ultimately that there is no absolute truth beyond matter. This world is all we have. This is our existence. And he says, now there are the three tribhuvans. He said you can go by pap, you can go to hellish regions. By punya, you can go to heavenly regions. So he said you should perform pious activities to elevate yourself to Swarga and enjoy there as much as you can. So he recommended following the scriptures, the Vedic portion that is only related to ritualistic ceremonies, without worrying about the knowledge and self-knowledge sections. So the Veda generally is divided into these two sections now, known as the Purva, the earlier part, which deals mostly with ritual sacrifice, yagya, and then the later part, which is known as the Gyan Kanda, which deals with the Uttara Mimamsa. Uttara Mimamsa means the later. Purva means the former, the earlier, the former and the latter. So Vyasadeva wrote the Uttara Mimamsa, and that's why Vedanta is actually, one of the names for Vedanta is Uttara Mimamsa. And it generally deals with the concepts of the Upanishads and Nivritti Marg. So the Purva Mimamsa is what is dealing with the Pravritti Marg, which means how to enjoy the most with your senses. That's why he says, do ritualistic ceremonies, properly chant the mantras, properly perform your dharma in this life, then you'll get elevated to heaven and you'll enjoy there like a king as much as you can for millions and millions of years. Enjoy. So Jaimini said like this. He said, ultimately, you shouldn't bother with the Upanishads. In this way, he countered his Guru Vyasadeva. And so Vyasadeva deals with this discussion in his Vedanta Sutra. And Baladev Vijayabhushan talks about this in this section. He says, how does Vyasadeva respond to his disciple Jaimini saying, all that Upanishad stuff is rubbish. Just do your work in this world. dharma, artha, kama. Enjoy as much as you can. He said moksha is just imagination. There is no God. He's ultimately atheistic. You can go and you can enjoy in heaven. So Vyasadeva responds saying, Sastra Yonidvat, that in Sastra you should focus your energy on that absolute truth. He said there is an absolute truth, and actually leads us to the fourth sutra that we can quickly go over. Tat tu samanvayat. Tat means that. Tu samanvayat. He's saying ultimately all the scriptures are orienting us towards that supreme Parabrahman. That is the real purpose. And so the Pravritti Marg, the path of enjoyment in this world, economic development, kama, sense gratification, its purpose is to gradually lead you towards the transcendental path. But Krishna is so merciful that he gives both paths. That's why in Sastra it said there's certain sacrifices that you can drink wine, there's certain sacrifices to even sacrifice animals and then take their flesh. Right? Why is that given? Because human beings naturally have these kinds of tendencies. If you completely restrict it and forbid them from doing that, they're going to do it anyway. It's like legalizing certain drugs. If you keep them illegal, everyone's going to take them anyway. But if you legalize it, at least you can somewhat regulate it. So Krishna creates the Pravritti Marg in order to regulate the tendency of the jivas. Otherwise, it said in Sastra, if you didn't regulate it, like for example, if you didn't regulate how they would slaughter animals, they're going to do it anyway. But by doing it according to the Vedic method, then when they do it, for example, they know, they whisper in the ears when you do the goat sacrifice, I am killing you now, in the next life you shall kill me. And Gurudev would say, Mangsa, meat itself means Mangsa sa mam. Now I am eating you, you will come back and you will eat me. And you chant these mantras when you do the sacrifice. So gradually it helps people come to higher consciousness. So Vyasadeva says to Jaimini, the Purvam amongst the section has its utility, but ultimately, it's leading us to the transcendental path and the transcendental quest that leads us out of samsara. And so that's why he went from Sastra Yonidvat to Tattu Samanvayat. So Jaimini, I'll give a few examples. Jaimini says, in scripture, you should only Sastra Yonidvat. In the scripture, you should only focus on those sections that tell you how to do your duties properly. Like, okay, now you do this, then you do that, and then like how you do the proper yajna, or how you live in life morally, how you can uplift yourself in this world. Focus on that section. He said sections that teach you about Gyan, they're just like, if they help you learn more about your material work, then it's useful. Otherwise, you should discard it. But then Vyasadeva and Govinda Bhasi gives the example that the Upanishad sections, they're leading you to actually the spiritual treasure. And he gives an example of if there's treasure buried in your courtyard, you would want to have a map and details to how to get it. And so he says that's like with the Upanishads. You're all just like, imagine you're a poor kid and you're working day and night doing karma, trying to, advance yourself. But you don't know that under your feet there's this buried treasure. So the Upanishads, they're like telling you there's this buried treasure there. You should go and find it. And that kind of knowledge is naturally very useful. What kind of person wouldn't want to know that under their very feet there's a gold mine, right? So Vyasadeva in Govinda Bhasi says, no, this is the what the Uttaramimangsha is giving.